All right, presented by Litify. I'm Bill Biggs, and this is Transforming the Culture of Law. Guys, we have had just incredible guests on the show from the start until now, but I don't know if I've ever been as excited about a guest as I am today. We have Liz Wiseman here with us, and I'm just going to pump this up. Liz Wiseman wrote a book that I consider, and many of you have heard me say this, a top 3 leadership book of all time. For me, this book encompasses the core message of what it means to be a leader, and that is to make people around you better, to invest in their lives, to love them, to demand high performance, and then to see them multiply that out. So we pour into leaders, and then they make more leaders, and they make more leaders. And that is how our firms, that is how our organizations get better. It's based upon leadership and the multiplication of leadership. So today we have a special treat. Liz is going to be joining us at the Vista Law Firm Leadership Conference, November 17th and 18th in Las Vegas. We hope all of you show up there. She is going to take us through this process and share with us her wisdom. So I'm kind of like a starstruck fan, a groupie here with you today, Liz. To have you on is super meaningful to me, and so many of our listeners and people that have followed us are going to be thrilled to see you. So welcome to the show. And I would love to hear it. Kind of, how did this all begin for you? How did you start to think about this idea of leadership culture and ultimately multipliers?
Oh, well, Bill, it is good to be here. It's good to join this group. I'm not much of a rock star. I'm sort of a nerd researcher. So, uh, it started when I began my career. And, I started my career at this company called Oracle. Small.
Oh, yeah, that little company.
It was a little company. And honestly, I joined Oracle out of business school, and my business school friends, associates there, they were all going off to real companies. And I was going to Silicon Valley to work for this kind of wacky little maverick, growing but small adolescent, like a smelly, awful teenager kind of adolescent company. And,
I've got
they all
2 of
thought I
those.
was wasting my career, I should go work for a big company. And it was just this thrilling experience. But Oracle was known for a certain hiring profile, and they were looking for this, I don't know, they called it this trifecta of talent, which is raw smarts, driver achievement, and nice. And, when they compromised, it was not on the first 2. It was on the third.
Absolutely, right?
And I was kind of starstruck by all of my colleagues, all these really smart, amazing, driven, accomplished kind of people. And it wasn't like I had I don't know, like an imposter syndrome. I just was I don't know, Twitter pated by these brilliant people. And I began to notice that some of those really, really smart people weren't always smart. And around certain leaders, they were brilliant and sharp and witty and quick and, could do math in their head and make important insights in meetings.
Yeah.
And then I would watch them in other meetings. And I'm like, that's not the Brian I know at all. I know him
Right.
to be amazing, but why is he kind of stammering here? Why is he backing down? Why is he shutting down? What's going on? Because he's the same person. And I would see these people in different contexts, and I was fascinated by that dynamic. And then add to this, I'm young, right out of business school. I get thrown into leadership really early, and I'm just holding on for dear life, trying to figure out, how do I do this job, a big job in a really soon to be very, very big organization. So I became this student of leadership, trying to figure it out myself,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out, how do I lead really, really smart people?
Mm-hmm.
And then watching this dynamic. And it wasn't until, fast forward 17 years when I left Oracle and started doing some executive coaching, that I saw this dynamic play out with other executives who were brilliant, but the culture around them was in some ways a culture of mediocrity, not meritocracy. And that's when I decided, someone needs to research this to understand what's going on here, and why do some leaders end up shutting down intelligence while other leaders seem to like magnify that.
Right. Now, and I love this, and I wish we had more than 30 minutes because
Hmm.
I would love to just dig into all of this. Real quick, is there a connection there? Is what you're getting at with some of these things that you noticed in certain leaders, is this connected to emotional intelligence? Do you think this is a part of the difference between just being a high aptitude, highly cognitive, intelligent person versus emotional intelligence? What role does that play in all of
You know,
this?
I think emotional intelligence is an amplifier to this dynamic. It makes it easier to see the effect that you're having on others. But I think whether a leader has a multiplying or a diminishing effect on others, it's not like people with emotional intelligence are multipliers. I see a lot of people with emotional intelligence who are diminishers. And I
Sure.
see a lot of people who are like very logical, scientific, very technical, maybe not even aware of like emotionally what's going on for others who are amazing multiplier leaders. It really comes down to what is your belief
Yeah.
about yourself and other people?
Love
Do you
that.
believe that you are a smart, capable person enough that you're secure in your own intelligence? And do you believe the people around you are smart, capable people?
Yeah.
Some of you might be familiar with Carol Dweck's work. I loved her reaction to the book Multipliers. Carol is, of course, the originator of this idea of growth mindset, this
Yeah.
belief that intelligence isn't static, it's something that
Hmm.
grows with use. And she was so delighted by the concept of multipliers because she said it's like you looked at this growth dynamic in the workplace where she had looked at it really in the classroom. And in some ways, the multiplier is the leader who holds a growth mindset, not just about themselves,
Right.
but about the people around them. Like, the attorneys we hired are smart people. Like, they figured out how to pass the bar. They've, got themselves through school and law school. Like, they're probably smart and capable. And what if I lead them assuming that they're still smart and capable, that I haven't like squashed that out of them?
Right. So are you, and then let me clarify this part. Are you saying that apart from emotional intelligence, you see people who are leaders who are multipliers, who are both high on an emotional intelligence scale and low? It's not just about that particular skill or that particular quality that they have. It's more about their values. And I might go so far as to say their heart. Like if they believe in being a multiplier, if they understand the value for it, if they say it is worth pouring into other individuals. In fact, not just worth it, but it's critical that I pour into other individuals and help them reach their best. That's what's best for all of us. That's what's best for the organization. If
Mhm.
someone has that value, that kind of has to be the foundational piece.
Well, I think so. And so let's play with an extreme. Let's say we have someone who is very technical, very logical, very scientific, maybe a kind of like a by the book kind of lawyer. You don't have to have an amazing emotional intelligence quotient. Let's say, and that person is even greedy, like
Right.
really greedy. Like
Sure.
that can take you down the multiplier path, meaning, you know what? I work with smart people and I'm working on a very difficult case here, a very difficult piece of work. Stakes are high. I'm surrounded by smart people. I want all of that intelligence for me and for our
Yeah.
client and for
Yeah.
this piece of work. It's almost like, so you can be full of heart and love and really care about people and want them to grow. But if that's not who you are, that's not your like default personality, you're introverted,
Hmm.
it might just be looking around saying, I hired smart people and darn it, I want access to that.
Right.
And not to use people and then dispose of them, but to deeply utilize talent.
Right. To understand that's what's best for the organization. That's whatever our vision is, whatever our goal is. I've got these resources around me. It makes sense. It's the intelligent move to maximize the value of these resources.
Yeah. In some
Right.
ways, the smartest leaders are too smart to go down the diminisher path.
Hmm.
They're like, we actually need a really intelligent firm here. And so I'm going to harness and use all of the intelligence around me. And, it's based on, I think, one of my core beliefs. And it's not a belief that I come in with a bias, it's a conclusion I make having done so much research on this, is that people come into work every day wanting to contribute, wanting to play
Yeah.
big, wanting to be smart. And, you hear so often managers like, well, I would lead that way if like I had willing people.
Right.
And I think, I don't know, laziness at work, like wanting to do the minimum is absolutely a learned behavior. And it's
Sure.
a coping behavior. It's the way we cope when we can't. But, you know, I see people all around the world across all different industries who want to show up at work and be valued, who want to do work that's
Yeah.
valuable, who want to contribute. And
Yeah, and another book, it talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. People are dying for these things. They're wanting a sense of autonomy, a sense, the opportunity to master their work, because that builds their self-esteem, that builds their worth. They believe they're bringing value. Those things help
that sounds
build
like
the
Dan
individual.
Pink's book,
That's right.
Drive.
It
Yeah.
is that is Drive. That's Dan
And that
Pink.
is such a fabulous piece of work. And there's so much that is congruent between these two bodies of work.
No doubt, for sure. And that Dan Pink and his work are definitely on my reading list and my handout to people, the books I buy for folks list as well. Um, so tell us a little bit about how, when you decided I need to write this book, I want to spread this idea. What was happening? What was your thought process? What did you hope to give to the world when you said, you know what, I'm going to write this book and this is what we're going to do?
Oh my goodness, Bill, you're going to be so disappointed in my answer. Do you want the honest answer?
You were looking to make a whole lot of money on the book circuit. Is that what you were?
No, 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 no. That would be a fabricated answer for sure. No, someone after the book came out and people started reading it and the book became kind of popular and the ideas started to really spread. Someone said, "Wow, it must feel so good to have made a meaningful contribution to your profession." And I'm like, "What? I never intended to make a meaningful contribution to my profession. Like that sounds so noble, but honestly, that wasn't my motivation. It's like there was a question I didn't have an answer to. And I was, as Oracle's president once described me, a dog on a bone. Like I could see this and I could see it hurting people. And I could see leaders who had the best of intentions who were shutting down people on their team. And I wanted to know what was going on there. And it was this unanswered question. So I just kind of wanted to find an answer. And then it made sense to share an answer. And I wasn't even thinking of a book necessarily. I was going to just write an article about this. And so it wasn't like, gee, I set out to write a book and to go give talks. Like that was not really what was on my mind. It's like someone needs to find an answer. So it was a far more tactical quest than trying to do something good in the world. But I'm all for doing something good in the world. And I think I think the concept has been helpful to a lot of people. And
For sure.
for that I am like feel this deep sense of satisfaction and purpose.
Well, that's super meaningful. So I want to bring it into something that's very pertinent to the context that your listeners are in, our listeners are in right now. In the law firm world, it's particularly common. Uh, some a partners will start a law firm, and their mentality is often, and I can understand why, they want to just hire the best and just get them out there doing it. So the best lawyers, the best paralegals, the best team. And the idea of actually developing or growing a team, growing leadership structures, growing leadership processes to help people develop is, I don't think that always comes natural in the law firm community. And I'm sure this is true in a lot of other business communities or industries as well. What would you say to the leaders, to the law firm owners who are out there that say, look, I just want to hire people and I want them to do a great job. and I always hire these people and they don't end up doing a great job and I have to fire them, I have to let them go. What would you say to them in terms of what can be done when you develop a system where you are creating people, you're developing more leaders versus just hoping that you can hire them and set them off into the world and they're going to do their thing?
Yeah. Well, okay. So to look at that, let's look at the contra case of, well, what can you do without developing people on your team? Well, you can probably run a successful practice. You can get clients, you can win cases, you can successfully fulfill contracts, you can do work, you can bill. You will probably always be at the hub of that.
There you go.
And you could probably take vacation, but you might not be able to take a truly stress-free vacation. You'll probably always take work home with you. Like, you can run a successful practice. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But if you want something more than that, you want to vacation with peace of mind. If you want to be able to like enjoy a full life, if you want, so that's some things like just about you and your lifestyle, then you need to grow talent that can do what you do and fill in for you. If you want to stay in bed when you're sick, like you might need people who can pinch hit for you. And then let's go to your business objectives. If you want to grow your practice, there's a lot of people who want to grow their business practice, but if you try to grow your business practice without growing your people,
Preach.
you will be in churn mode. You'll be chewing people up, spitting people out, either from their on their initiative or on your initiative. It'll be tough to hire talent. You'll be constantly behind the ball on this. But if you grow, like, some people grow talent because they love to do it. I just was talking to a general manager of a restaurant, and she's like, I love to take people who are struggling in their life, give them a job, and see them go from dishwasher
Yeah.
to department leader. She's like, it makes me happy, and it makes up for all the other like junk that goes with running a
Right.
big restaurant. And there are people like that. You don't have to be like that. But if you try to grow a business without growing the talent, you will always be struggling. But if you grow the talent on your team faster than you're growing your business, you're going to have all this headroom.
Hmm.
And like, you will grow your business not because you're scraping for clients and scraping for talent. Like, your business will grow itself.
Did you? I'm gonna pull back there. Did you just say grow your talent faster than you grow your business? Did you
Well,
say that?
I
I think
did.
that's what you said.
Well, I did. And I
I
think that's,
love that.
yeah. And it's like, you grow your business by growing your talent is behind that. But I worked for Oracle's chief financial officer for many years. And I remember this was Jeff Henley, he had a Henleyism. And it was like, if you grow your expense line faster than you grow your revenue line, you will eventually be out of business. And,
Yeah.
you think a lot about like, how do you manage growth lines? Like, if you grow the talent on your team, you can grow your revenue without having to grow expense faster than revenue. Because, here's what I see is, these diminishing leaders get a fraction of people's capability.
Yeah.
They're paying full market value for talent,
Yeah. And they're getting 50%.
and they're getting
Yeah.
50%. Well, then if you want to grow your business, you got to hire twice as many people.
Hmm.
And then, of course, when people are contributing at 50% of their capability, well, what kind of culture does that create? And what kind of work experience does that create? So it creates this
100%.
drag on your growth. Well, if your talent is fully utilized and people are growing, that's a great work experience. And they want their buddies to come work there. And they're going to
Yeah.
bend
They
over
become the best
backwards.
recruiters, right?
They're going to be your best recruiters. They're going to
Yeah.
go get, they're going to do work that fuels that growth. Like, investing in your people is rocket fuel for that kind of growth.
Absolutely. Look, you just gave, I mean, less than 60 seconds ago, you just gave the price of admission. I mean, people, this is something I've never heard before, a phrase I've never heard. I don't think it's commonly used. And in fact, I know it's not in our industry, but this is something, folks, you got to latch onto this one. Grow your talent faster than you're growing your business, right? That makes so much sense. Grow the people, grow the folks that are going to be the ones that are developing your business, so that are going to be, and now you've got capacity rather than most law firms, most businesses that are constantly trying to catch up to a talent deficit, right? To their ideas are growing, their business, the calls are coming in, the sales are coming in, but they find that their infrastructure and the talent that they have to lead the entity, to lead the organization, is not keeping up. And so you may experience this rapid growth, but a lot of times there comes decline because you don't have the people, you don't have the talent, you don't have the leadership in place to really truly grow an organization in a healthy manner. That's really good stuff, Liz. Um, something that's common, and you didn't know this, but something that's common among law firm owners is that they're so concerned about making sure that it's done the right way, which is they should be, right? That is a good thing. I've seen this across the country that a law firm will get to about 30 people. And it's grown at that point by what I would call force of personality.
Mm.
They're entrepreneurial, they've got a strong personality, they're charismatic, people will follow them. And it's so common that they start to reach out to consultants, that they start to experience struggles in their firm. And sometimes it's impacting on growth, it's holding them back, it's a retardant. They are at about 30 people, they can't run the show anymore. They can't control all the pieces. They don't know everybody in the firm. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? That the firm begins to outgrow them, the leader. And if they want to sleep at night, if they want to be able to go on vacation, if they want peace of mind, the key thing in that place is they've got to be a multiplier, or they've got to understand what it means to begin to multiply leadership, or bring somebody in who knows how to multiply leadership.
Well, and what you're talking about is one of these truisms. It's a leadership threshold. Is like once you're managing more people than you can personally supervise their work, and 30 is a pretty good number. Like once you get to 30, like you probably can't remember people's names. Like if you can't remember people's names or their partners' names or their kids' names, or like that's an
Yeah.
indication that you've got to start working differently. And you have to start entrusting things. You have to give full ownership on certain
Yeah.
things. And there's a let me give you an example. This is one that just has stuck with me. I've heard so many different executives and leaders like tell me what they've done with these ideas. There was one that has always stuck with me. There's several, but here's one from law. It was someone who was a partner in a law firm, and he came up to me and he said, I read your book and I really put those ideas to work. And he said, there's one thing I did that really changed things for me. He said, he admitted, I have some perfectionist tendencies. And I have a feeling that people who go into law, like, probably have a lot of perfectionist tendencies. Like, it's a field where you've got to get, like, you don't want your attorney approximating things. Well, the contract looks pretty good. It's 90% good. Like, it's a field that draws people who want to do precise, thorough work. And he says, I'm a total perfectionist. We talked about how perfectionists, like, they're upholding these quality standards, but they can end up accidental diminishers, not seeing the impact they're having on people. And here's what he said. He said, I made one decision when I became partner in this firm. He said, I decided that when people sent me their work and I would, review it and correct it, he said, I would only change things or correct their work if it was legally inaccurate. Would get our firm in trouble, get our
Yeah.
clients in trouble. He said, everything else that I could improve, oh, I could say this better, or we could format this better. He said, I just decided to let it go. And he said, it has made all the difference. You could talk to people around me, like they're thriving, they're doing great work. And I think it's an example of one of these really smart trade-offs we have to make, which is, yeah, if you're going to be correcting everyone's work, everything is going to go through you. You can't bust past those growth thresholds. But it's not, you don't want to run it on hippie management of like, hey, be creative, do good work. Like, hey, that looks great. I
Yeah.
trust you. I don't need to review it. Go for it. like you can demand accuracy and tightness, but like where does that no longer make sense? Where do you need to let people do it a different way?
So good. A good friend of mine and somebody I would consider a mentor in this industry. His name is Chad Dudley. He's one of the founders of Dudley DeBosier, one of the largest personal injury firms in the Southeast. I heard him say one time, he's told me this on multiple occasions. I've heard him tell other people as well. He said, at some point, as an owner, as a leader, as things get bigger and bigger, you really have to learn the power of letting go. And he said, because the reality is this: somewhere in your firm right now, and in every moment that you choose, somewhere somebody is effing something up. he used more colorful language, right?
It's a guarantee. Yeah.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. Somebody is not doing it the way that you wish it were being done exactly, but it's okay. You got to learn to be okay with that, because they're still probably doing it to a degree that is going to be successful for them. And you have to decide, just as you're saying, to what degree are you going to try to lock down every single detail? That's not scalable. That, if you're going to be that involved,
Well, and
you,
Bill,
you can't scale that.
let's dig into that one just a little bit. That's fun because, yeah, if someone's effing something up, you probably need to step in and fix that. But there's a difference between effing something up, and we'll use the F there as in to fail, to get
They're
an F
failing something
grade.
up.
They're failing something up. Like it's learning to see what's an F versus what's a B plus or an A minus.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, if someone's effing it up, you probably need to step in and fix it. But what if they're just getting an A in a different way than
Yeah,
you would? Or if
right.
it's
Yeah. What
a
if they're
minus,
getting a B on that particular thing, right?
but
Is it necessary that you go in and blow that situation up because of that B?
yeah, the B is a passing grade. And maybe in that case, I grew up in an organization full of perfectionists. And, one of the things, and I think it was one of the reasons why I was put into management, not one of these 4.0 GPA absolute perfectionists, is that I could look at a job that came in, okay, this one, we just need a B. It's a solid B. Maybe we need a B plus. This other piece of work, oh, that's not just an A. We need an A plus on this. And
Mm-hmm.
not every piece of work has to be done to perfection. It's knowing what needs to be perfect and what we can let go of. And I think it's part of this maturation we go through. Leader, I've had to go through it where I can't give this to someone else. They're not going to do it right. Oh,
Right.
they did it differently
Absolutely.
than me.
Yeah.
They effed it up. They're doing it wrong. And then you go, wait a minute. They didn't do it wrong. They just did it differently. And I don't like it,
Yeah.
but it got the job done. And then you start to let go and you're like, oh, yeah, but some people screw stuff up and I've got to fix that. But there's a lot of people who are not only doing it differently than me, they're doing it better than me.
Better.
Like
That's
my
right.
perfect was a B and they did it different and it was an A. And then you're like, I need to let more of this happen, but you have to go through enough cycles that you see it.
Well, and that's a great point. Sometimes we as the leaders, the owners may look and say, oh, I've got to step in because they're doing it at a B level. And so we want to go in and control that. But what we don't realize is that there might also be times that in our desire to control something, we are thwarting someone who is actually going to do it at a double A plus when we ourselves were never capable of doing it there. And what we thought was acceptable on in terms of our standard could actually be raised. That level of performance could be raised if we allowed our team and some of the brilliant people on our team to show us how to do it better. That's a fascinating piece. Another thing that I think about what you're saying that I think often happens, or where the diminishing or the damage comes from when we as leaders are overbearing and don't trust in the process and developing our people, is that if we jump in to try and correct the B, you're right. We got to go in and we got to correct the F's, right? But even then, it's when we're jumping over two layers of leadership of people that we have empowered and entrusted to grow and to identify the B's, even to identify the F's. Sometimes I feel like what happens is we jump over the folks that we have empowered to be the coaches, to be the trainers, and now we're diminishing them. We are taking away their ability to lead and grow and to become a coach because we said, oh, we saw a B. It's two levels below me. There's two leaders between me and that B. Instead of going to the leaders and saying, hey, I noticed this B being done. I want you to help coach this person. We have a tendency to jump over them. And I don't know if that ever really works out well.
It doesn't. And I want to borrow a concept that I guess from real estate law and title. We all know that when you purchase a house, a building, you have to take title of it, and you go down to the title firm and do that. And you can't take title of it until someone else releases title. Like, you can't have that confused title. There's a very clear process, and it's the concept of ownership is that at any given time, only one person should own something. Now, I'm all for collaboration. People want to work together, but we like clear ownership. And when you step in and rescue someone who's struggling or fix someone who's doing things, when you jump over layers of leadership, what you've done is you've just assumed title of this. Because the truism in most organizations and cultures is when the senior person gets involved, they now are in charge. And so what you've done, I like to think of it as like taking the pen. You've just taken the pen and it's now yours, and you're fixing it, you're correcting it. Like, you have to remember to hand the pen back to people. And, it's like this transfer of title and ownership. And pretty soon you own everything and you become this bottleneck. But we think we're just helping, but we've just ripped title out of people's
and you just said it. You said it quietly, but we just became the bottleneck, right? We're becoming the growth of our organization, the health and success, the bottom line of our organization. We just became the bottleneck. We thought we were solving a problem. We've become a bigger one.
And right? I think it's a theme across much of what we've talked about, Bill, is what happens when you operate as a bottleneck. And I think it's why you don't need a huge heart and high levels of emotional intelligence. Those are great. If you have them, if you can develop that, great. But you can get yourself into this multiplier mindset by simply being logical. Okay. Yeah. Do I want to limit growth? Do I want to be like a cap on the growth of the organization? Do I want to put a damper, like to use the principle from mechanics? Do I want to put a damper on the quality of our work, on innovation, on growth? And if I don't, like, logically, how do I get myself out of the bottleneck?
Yeah.
It's I don't like being a bottleneck. It's a terrible way. Like, everyone's waiting on you and you can never work fast enough.
Right. And that's not squishy. That's not lovey-dovey. That's not warm and fuzzy. That is, as you said, logical. You're holding your own business back. You're dampening success. There's nothing warm and fuzzy about that. That's just logically true.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful enough motivator.
And then, so there's the logic of what kind of business do you want to run, and what, do you want to grow it? How dependent do you want that to be on you? Some people want to run a business that's highly dependent on them. Like, but then I think you have to also think about legacy. What do you want to be known for? Mm-hmm. How do you want to exit your career? And how do you want to exit your life? And I had a leader who the book was like maybe out on the market for like a week. He had heard me on, I think, NPR, read the book, and he sends a note to the website, and it just says, accidental diminishers seeking reform and recovery. And he was like, he's like, I realize I've been he's a brilliant guy. I've been a massive diminisher. He was a founder of a firm. He had become this like bottle cap. People resented him. And he said, I'm in my mid 50s. He said, I figure I have a good 12+ years of like productive career left. And then he said something that really got me. He said, I want to exit my career as a multiplier, and I'd like to build other multiplier leaders around me. And, now it's this legacy issue of what do you want to be known for? Like, a brilliant legal mind, a perfectionist, someone who did great work? Or do you want to be known as that plus someone that other people grew around?
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
we
what?
were smart too around Bill. Like it wasn't just that Bill was brilliant. Like I felt brilliant when I worked with Bill. Like I don't know, I think that's a better way
Well, yeah, and what?
to live.
It's kind of like being a parent. It's kind of like being in a family. Do you want to, when you're gone, is the best tribute to you to say, well, when he or she passed on, everything they built just kind of crumbled,
Yeah.
or they installed and gave handed it over to people that took it to an even higher level because of the foundation that they had built. And really, that foundation that you had built was the people that took over from you, right? That you had invested in, that you had multiplied. Liz, we could keep talking more and more. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. I try to hold it to 30 minutes just because I know folks' attention spans. I want to be honorable to their time. One last question. Uh, we're so fortunate to have you come in November 17th and 18th to the Law Firm Leadership Summit in Las Vegas. You're going to do sessions on multipliers, and you might even touch a little bit maybe on impact players, your new book. Tell us what we can expect from your
Mm.
time there.
Well, in terms of our exploration of this idea of multiplier leadership, I think what people will walk away with is an understanding of what do leaders do that either have a multiplying or diminishing effect on others. That's one. The second thing people will leave with is an understanding of the ways that we end up diminishing with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
People with
I
big
didn't I didn't
hearts.
mean to. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, like people with big hearts, people who are emotionally intelligent, like all these ways that we can end up diminishing thinking we're being a good leader. That's a second. And then, a set of multiplier practices, small changes in the way you lead that make a big difference in other people's ability to step up and play big, you know, things like only correct work that's legally inaccurate was one of like my takeaways from that attorney. I'll share several things that you can do to be more of a multiplier. And, we may have a chance there to talk about the latest research I've done, not just looking at what's the leader's obligation in creating an environment where people contribute fully,
Yeah.
but what's the contributor's side of the deal? Like, what does talent need to do?
Yeah.
If you
Love
want to
it.
like play big and make an impact, well, that's not entirely on the leader now, is it?
Yeah. Love it. Liz, thank you so much. I can't wait to meet you in person, to spend time with you. You are going to make our leaders, everybody who listened to this podcast and everybody who comes to that summit is going to be better because they spent some time with you. You are going to be a multiplier, which makes sense. You should be, since it's your idea. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Bill, it's my pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you with this group in Vegas.
Awesome. Folks, we've been super privileged to have Liz Wiseman here, the author of Multipliers and Impact Players. She'll be joining us November 17th and 18th in Las Vegas, Waldorf Astoria at the Law Firm Leadership Summit. We can't wait. We hope you will join us there. Thank you, Litify. Thank you, everybody involved in helping make this podcast a reality. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to The Culture of Law on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at litify.com/culture of law. You guys have a great day.